Hey everyone, welcome to Be Our Guest, our weekly virtual happy hour with industry professionals. I'm Janki, Artistic Director of Live and in Color. We are an artist-serving organization dedicated to developing new stage works that promote and celebrate diversity. Please consider making a donation to Live and in Color today to support our artists who continue to make socially inclusive and bold work during this time. Just go to liveandincolor.org for more information. And also, Live and in Color is currently accepting musical submissions for playwrights, composers, and lyricists of color and other underrepresented communities interested in developing their new musical. It is the final week to submit, and submissions are due March 31st, so make sure you check out the website for more information on that. Now it's time to grab your cocktail and start leaving questions for our guests in the comments. Please welcome two amazing people. They're terrific collaborators, great friends, beautiful actors and writers. They both star in the hilarious TV show Insomnia. Please say hello to the brilliant Vishaal Reddy and Nandita Shenoy. Hello, my friends. Cheers.
Hello.
Cheers.
Happy
cheers.
It's so good to see you both.
It's good to see you too.
Great to see you, Deb.
Thank you for joining me. Where are you both tuning in from?
I'm in New York, in Brooklyn, in my little apartment, and surviving.
Fantastic. And Nandita?
I'm in New York on the Upper East Side, and I feel that I have lived the past year in front of this wall.
Exactly. Now, I know New York's not originally home for both of you. Vishaal, where did you grow up?
Tennessee. Yeah, I know. Everyone gives me that look. They're like, their first question is why, and then the second question is, they're Indians in Tennessee. Yes. Why? Parents. And there's lots of Indians in Tennessee. So
yeah.
Well, my uncle live in Tennessee.
Did you both ask a question?
No, I just said my aunt and uncle also live in Tennessee.
Oh yeah, I'm in East Tennessee, in a town called Johnson City. So I'm close to Dollywood.
Oh,
I'm close to Pigeon Forge. It's full Bible Belt situation.
I love it. And Nandita, I know you're from further up north.
I'm from further up north. Yeah, I'm from Buffalo, which also people are like, oh, are there Indians there? And the answer is yes.
Yes.
There are Indians everywhere.
We're everywhere.
We are everywhere.
It's so ominous.
Yeah. But in a good way.
Yeah.
So both of you have had really wonderful, wonderful careers. I've been so fortunate to have been privy to most of it. You both act on stage and on screen. There you are together. Look at you two.
How cute is still of us?
I know. There you are. How did you get started in the industry? How did two Indian kids find their way into this crazy business? Nandita, do you want to go first?
Sure. So I had danced my whole life. My mom put me into a ballet tap combo when I was 6 years old because she had studied Bharatanatyam in India, and she thought it was really good to study dance, but there wasn't a Bharatanatyam teacher in Buffalo at that time. And the next best thing apparently was a ballet tap combo. So I did that, and I pretty much just danced my whole life without really thinking about it. Like it just was always like the thing I did. And I went to college and studied English, was an English major, and had somewhere along the way I was part of the dance company there, the student-run dance company. And one of my friends came to one of our shows, I think my sophomore year. And afterwards he was like, you're really a beautiful dancer. How will you keep doing this after we graduate? And I was just like, gosh, I don't know. And I was like, I guess I should try being professional. And so I moved to New York 2 weeks after I graduated and started auditioning for shows. And now I'm here.
And then now you're here.
And now I'm here. Now I live in front of this wall.
How soon afterwards did The King and I happen tour where we originally met?
That was 3 years after. I was a modern dancer all through high school and college. I went from being a jazz arena to a mod arena, and I moved here really with the intention of being a modern dancer, but I would vomit at every audition that I went to, and I have vomited in every studio in New York City, including Chelsea Studios, where you and I have spent a lot of time. So in order to get over the fear of auditioning, I just went to every audition there was, and I accidentally booked an off-Broadway musical about a year after I moved to New York. And, I got this call that was like, we'd like you to do this show and you have to get your equity card. And I was like, what is equity? And I was just like, I have to pay to do this thing. Like, I don't understand. But then I was like, well, what else am I doing? Like, yes, I want to be on stage. So I did it, and I just fell in love with the theater, and The King and I was my second job after that.
Whoa. Yeah. That's amazing. And that's where we met on tour and became fast friends and collaborators. Vishaal, what about you? How did you fall into this business of show?
I don't know. I wonder that myself every day. I also didn't know that you two met on King and I had no idea.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We go way back.
I had no idea. I kind of similar trajectory in that, I just kind of always known, I wanted to perform and I wanted to act. So truly since the age of 6, I've told this story before, but I saw Indian movies, and I remember seeing Dil Tu Pagal Hai and literally seeing that song Koi Ladki Hai with the kids dancing in the rain. And I told my mom and dad, how do I do that?
Yeah.
And that was it. And then I remember we were lucky enough to come to New York, and I saw my first Broadway show at the age of 7, which was, say it with me, Showboat. So I don't know why, so
it changed your life, that show.
You were like, Showboat it is.
So couldn't tell you anything about the show now, but when I found this out years later that when we saw the show, my mom said that she knew I was going to do this because I didn't get up. And if you know that show, even during intermission, I was just kind of like, oh, when's it coming back? What are they doing on stage? And if you know that show, it's 19 hours long.
And so long.
And very slow, and now slightly problematic, but we won't even talk about that. So I've kind of known, so I kind of jumped into acting, singing, dancing, started playing piano, and did it all throughout high school, and got coaches and drama teachers who they're 2 of my mentors still. And then went to college, and as a good Indian person, did business and also was doing theater and stuff on the side, but needed a backup plan in case all of this failed. And then came to New York and just I booked a concert here, and I was singing in it, and have just kind of continued to audition a lot of theater, but the last couple of years it's been more TV and film stuff, but I'll take whatever I can get.
Well, since the 2 of you started out, you've really crafted very unique careers, as we have to do as artists of color in this business. We have to sort of be innovative and become multi-hyphenate artists. What inspired you to branch out from acting into writing and producing? Vishaal, why don't you go?
Well, I was angry. I was very, very angry. Because, and I'm still angry, and that's okay. But I just got to a point where I was auditioning for stuff, and I kept not only not seeing my own communities, but my friends represented in the kind of work. And I kept realizing that I would try to mimic a lot of the things that I saw white actors do, because I thought that it was what needed to be done to book the jobs, because those were who were booking jobs. I wasn't seeing a lot of South Asian content. I was just sort of figuring out the kind of art that I wanted to make. And then I was up for a bunch of Broadway shows and thought, this is it. This is my moment. Didn't get any of them. Literally lost all of them in a week, and it crushed me, 25, 26. And I was just like, I'm done. So then I quit for a month, and my friends were like, first of all, you're miserable because you've quit. Also, you won't stop talking about how miserable you are. So like, why don't you do something about it? And because of that, I decided, well, I might as well write what I want to do and what I want to be in, and the stuff that I don't see people that look like us get to do. And it kind of went from there. I kind of just started figuring out what I wanted to write and had all of these ideas, but didn't necessarily know how to put them onto paper. So I Googled how to write scripts. I read some books about it, and that was kind of it. And then pivoted into this a little bit in the last couple of years as well, just because I still don't see stuff I want to do. And so I'm like, well, we're just going to make it, because there are far too many talented South Asian performers, but also people who are writers, directors, producers, who are also wanting to get into crew roles of stage management, anything, but don't necessarily know how to do it. And so we gotta start there as well. Performing will always be what I will do. It'll be my first love, but I started doing it out of like scarcity and out of a necessity. You know?
Absolutely. Nandita, I know you can speak to this a little bit.
Absolutely. It's a very similar story, mostly that, I kind of started branching into straight acting after being told that I wasn't Indian enough or womanly enough to play a chorus person in Bombay Dreams. So, that was an exciting experience. And, but I'm grateful because it did kind of push me in a different direction. And the truth is, like, I don't think I had a long shelf life as a chorus girl. I was working as a straight actor and just feeling like I never auditioned with my own accent. I always auditioned with an Indian accent. And just like my lived experience is living with a lot of and being friends with a lot of children of immigrants who sound like I sound, and have very similar experiences that I just didn't see reflected anywhere, really. The real impetus was that I did this reading of a play about Indian people that was written by a not Indian person. And it was terrible. And as usual, like, everybody went to the bar after the reading. We were all talking. We were like, oh God, this play is terrible. And like, how is it getting, how are people working on it? And we're like, what's happened to us and why? And one of my friends turned to me and was like, don't you have an English degree from Yale? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, why don't you write something? And I was like, why don't I? So I wrote a play. I wrote a short play that I submitted to a short play festival in New York, and it got picked up and produced. And
what was that first play?
Marrying Nandini, which was about two Indian parents who filled out their daughter's Match.com survey. And part of the reason I wrote it was also, the other thing is that for those of you watching out there, I'm the Estelle Getty of the Indian community. I've been playing aunties since I was less than 30 years old. And I have often played like the grandparent of someone who is like my age. So that's great. But in any case, I'm just aging into my correct role, apparently. But yeah, so I was always playing these aunties, and one of my best friends, Sanjeev Javeri, he and I would get cast as like the auntie and uncle in everybody's play, and we would always be like the comic relief. And so I wrote a play for us to be like the main characters and like have something like other than just being like ridiculous. So we wrote this play, and it was super fun. And actually I decided not to act in it because I had never had that experience of being a writer before. And the first night I sat in the audience of the show and like people were laughing at my jokes, I was like, this is the greatest experience of my life. So yeah, that kind of got me started, and I've been doing it ever since, although I have been like creeping back into my own place. So.
Well, I've been very lucky to have witnessed
all of them,
and they're quite brilliant. Vishaal, so you wrote Insomnia, a dark comedy TV show that you and Nandita star in. I think we have a little clip to show.
God.
How fancy.
You want another glass of wine?
I'm good. I'm more of a beer guy. Plus, it's
It's getting late, so I should probably head out.
Oh, I get it. You're using me for my body and my prescription writing abilities. Huh?
Yeah, pretty much. Plus, I work a dead-end publishing job at 8 a.m. and have to take care of a sick aunt, all the while my insomnia slowly chips away at whatever mental and emotional stability I have left. Yeah, I'm not doing great.
Haven't watched that in
So good.
since it's been out.
So Vishal, talk to us a little about the show. It's so wonderful. It's so smart and funny. Tell us what it's about and what inspired you to create it.
Yeah, so Insomnia is my little creation. It's the first thing that I've ever like written and produced, and so it was a science experiment. But it is about Nikhil, this sort of very depressed and sort of down on his luck writer who stumbles into the world of escorting, and it kind of chronicles his trauma. And how that manifests itself into sex work and how he kind of finds himself through it. And so I wrote it because a lot of the stuff that I like to do as an actor are the things that sort of straddle the line between like it'll make you cry one second and then make you burst out laughing in another vein. And so that's the stuff that I really like to watch as well. And I kind of started thinking about, okay, what are things that I don't get to do, or my friends don't get to do on screen or on stage? Like, what are the auditions that we want to get, but like we're just not getting them? And
the answer was sex.
well, so yes, because we're not. And so part of this was, we don't talk about our trauma. We don't talk about our mental health. We don't talk about, we don't really get to see our like interpersonal relationships with other South Asian people, because like there is a vernacular when we all get together, and there is a particular kind of energy and culture that sometimes can happen when we're together, because there's an ease and comfort of just knowing that someone kind of might have your experience. But we're also not sexualized in any way. We're usually desexualized in so many ways. And so I was like, okay, how do I infuse this and make this into like a very multifaceted thing? And the show was not about sex work to begin with. It was a different sort of, more of an anthology kind of thing. But then I went to a bar one night and I kind of couldn't figure out what I wanted the character to be. And so I put it aside. And then I got asked to be an escort. And I genuinely thought it was a joke. And this gentleman was not kidding. He actually ran an agency or like had escorts. And I said, you know what, I'm good. Because like I thought it was my friends, just like, these are the people that I keep in my company, people that I think are going to send people to play.
Thank you.
Yeah, which is what I would never have it any other way. But it keeps me grounded. But I said, you know what, you're right. Indian people don't do this kind of stuff, and walked away. And I immediately, because of that microaggression, went, oh, he's going to be a sex worker. But how do I make this different than like other sex work? So then it manifested itself from there. Yeah, that's kind of the genesis of it.
It's really such a wonderful show. Can you? What are the roles? What role does Nandita play in the?
Estelle Getty.
Yes. Yes.
Estelle Getty role.
She plays a very important character in the show, and she plays my aunt, Mira, who is a wild character. And I mean, would you like to explain who she is?
Yeah, I mean, I think she's a badass. She's a badass who has health issues. She has MS, and she has been, and she is a sister of Vishal's character's mother, and has been, well, she has been allowing Vishal's character to take care of her, but she's really trying to take care of him. So, they have I think they have a weirdly codependent relationship. And, but what I really enjoyed about the character was that she doesn't play the kind of long-suffering Indian mother character she's just like so straightforward. I mean, she's very blunt, which I experience as a very Indian quality. Because, when you go to India, people will be like, why are you so thin? Why so fat? And you'll just be like, what? Like,
Mhm.
no one in America would just say that to my face, but like, okay.
I didn't even say hello. I just walked into the house and took off my shoes. Like, what do you, like, what?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. So I feel like she's very, very blunt and very, very straightforward. But there's a lot of love there too. And I think it's just a nuanced portrait of, my actual experience of what these relationships with a different generation can be like, which is not like, so loving and fawning. So yeah.
Yeah,
It's not loving or fawning.
No, but you start to realize sort of why throughout it. And the show,
tough love.
Yeah, absolutely. My goal, and I'm realizing with anything that because I'm writing a bunch of other things now, and like I'm seeing them in my head, and I'm like, oh, the way that I create is like, okay, cool. What are the things? How are we being perceived in our art right now? And what is the antithesis of that? Because that's what I'm going to do. So anything that I create and produce, I've started realizing that it's stuff that will make aunties and uncles really uncomfortable. And I think that that's like what I want out of this show. And I also really wanted to show like a group of Indian friends in a different way, and also a different dynamic between an Indian elder. Because for me personally, and people will disagree with me on this, and they have, I don't care to see us in stories where like our parents are trying to get us married, or they're upset that we're not at a certain point in our career, or we're not. The stuff that I've seen over and over and over again is stuff that I don't want to see it anymore, but I also don't think I would be the right person to create that. It's not my sort of vibe, because I also grew up in a place where my parents were very cultural, but also were like, you're still American, but we're still going to ship you to India every single summer so that you don't forget the language, the food with you don't forget your like all of this stuff. So I often didn't, and that's how me and my friends are. We still are very much in tune and proud of the culture, but can debate it and talk about it, but still assimilate. And I found that with a lot of other South Asian led things, it's either very whitewashed, or it is also, it's so stereotypical that it's borderline offensive and it's a caricature. So trying to balance all of that in a little short mini series that also serves as like a proof of concept, it was a challenging aspect of it. So,
well, you accomplished it beautifully. Can you tell people where they can see it and what's happening with the show?
Yes, it's all on YouTube, or you can go to insomniatheshow.com. All of it's on there. And there are things in the works with it. We're doing more with it. I hate to be that person, I can't say anything, but I really can't say anything. Because there have been some lovely developments, but COVID, of
course,
kind of just halted a lot of things that were in the works. But we are doing more. So
good. Well, keep a lookout for it.
Yeah.
Speaking of COVID, Nandita, you were in rehearsals for your show Rage Play when the pandemic hit. There's the poster. Tell us a little bit about the play, but how have the events of the past year changed how you see the show now?
That's a really good question, Dev. Do I see the show differently? I don't know, because I also am I think passing the year mark kind of made me realize like how much I'm still kind of traumatized by the experience of just losing that production.
Can you tell everyone what the show's about?
Yeah, so the play is basically my response to Me Too. And it's about 3 women who are essentially stuck in a kind of purgatory where they keep killing this man who has attacked one of them. And then he keeps coming back to life. And they are like, why can't we kill you? I would say it's a meditation on patriarchy and misogyny and gender-based violence. And also, when I started writing it, I was really influenced by the conversation both around Harvey Weinstein and the conversation around Aziz Ansari, because there was kind of this sense of like, well, if it isn't that bad, and how bad does it have to be? And like, what really constitutes creating either a hostile work environment, or what is abuse? And so I wanted to write a play that addressed all the steps that come before like violent assault, and how they can build up and how they can accumulate. And that's and the answer to me was that it just creates this sort of rage that these women end up acting out over and over again. So that's the play. And, at the time it felt very timely, because there were a lot of conversations about, that we're moving into a more nuanced place that wasn't just like, well, if he didn't rape her, like, which was really, for me, very hard to kind of square. So yeah, but I mean, I think so much of the conversations that we're having around race, around gender, around the workplace, even just because the pandemic has made everyone, go home. And then I'm like, well, nobody's getting harassed anymore. Or they're getting harassed in a different way. I don't know. But, I think that there is a lot of conversation about also bullying. I mean, I guess here we are on Facebook Live, but listening to some of the podcasts about Andrew Cuomo, like, were like super triggering, because I was like, I know artistic directors who are like this. I mean, there's been a lot of, I think, reckoning, and, we'll see when people come back if they behave better or not. But I think that there has been a kind of change in our tolerance levels. And in a way, I feel like the play might even resonate more, because there was always like the segment of people who'd be like, I had no idea. And I think after this year, it's really hard to be like, I had no idea that like racism and sexism existed.
Yeah. I both of you are just incredible in the work you do, and so innovative and so forward thinking. And I so admire you both. How has writing your own work, writing work for other people, altered your acting career? Do you have a new perception of it? How has it changed or not?
I think it's made me a better actor. Because when I used to audition, or maybe just a better auditioner, I mean, we'll see whether that makes me a better auditioner. But I feel like I'm a better auditioner, because I think that before I wrote, I used to go to auditions and just be, totally like, please let me be creative. Like, give me an opportunity to be creative. And once I had that feeling of like, I can be creative every day, and I am creative every day. I write every day. And so it just gave me, I think, a sense of empowerment and fulfillment from myself that I didn't have when I was only an actor. So much of acting, I think, is begging someone to give you a chance. And, that's the game, and I get it. But I think that it's just made me feel less needy or less desperate, or, whatever, because at least I still feel like an artist on my own terms, that I never really felt like as an actor.
Vishaal?
Yeah, I honestly echo all of that. I realized through writing that, well, one, I realized that it made me understand how much I do love performing. I love it. I know what I want to be challenged with. I know strengths, I know weaknesses. I know how to like approach them in a different way. And I think that that's really lovely. I also realized that I don't like writing alone. I'm not great at it. I like writing with collaborators. And so most of the stuff that I'm writing right now is with other people, and also other South Asian people, which is amazing. So like we can create some cool stuff. But I realized that through that process. And I'm just like Nandita, whenever I get auditions now, I'm less precious about booking the work, because I know that if I don't book it, even though it's going to be more work, I can make it. Yeah. I've already done it once, and it's only going to build from there. And I hate to say that I just don't care about auditions, because that's not the right mentality that I go into. I still care about it, but I don't put as much pressure in auditioning that I used to in my early 20s. I don't stress out about it as much. Because there's other things that I can do. And honestly, the other thing too, and Nandita and I've talked about this in that, like, a lot of times when we audition for things, I can't remember the last audition that I went on that I was truly inspired by the material that I was going in for. But when I read other people's work, like friends or friends of friends that are like, 1 degree of separation away, I'm so much more interested in that kind of thing that I'm like, okay, cool. How do we get this produced? Like, how do we get this made? Because it's much more interesting than 90% of the stuff that's getting produced right now. So I just kind of think of it, that way. But again, every day is different. Some days I'm like, I just want to be an actor. I don't want to write this. I don't want to have to build this from the beginning, And then other days I'm like, I don't want to act, burn it down. So ebbs and flows.
So, our mission at Live and in Color is to connect diverse communities to create new stage works. What does having an inclusive working environment mean to you?
Oh, I mean, it's everything. I'm officially launching a production company at the end of the spring, and it is like it's the founding principle of just like, I want to see people that look like me, all sorts of Black and brown people just creating the work. I think that I've been on many sets or even rehearsal spaces where I am the minority in many ways, and then am asked questions to be sort of the overall like authority figure when there's questions and education, and I don't
cultural consultant.
I'm sorry?
The cultural consultant.
Yeah, and I'm like, first of all, you're not paying me for this. I'm making $100 for this 29-hour reading. You're not paying me to be a consultant. Here's my fee. You can't afford it. And it's one of those things where there's an ease that you're able to create with. And so it's we've worked on things. I've gotten to work in some of Nandita's projects, and she's been kind enough to ask me to be a part of them. And the rooms that she's creating are so representative of just the world we're living in. And it's such a fun environment and collaborative and safe. And so that's my long answer. I'll be quiet. I'm so sorry.
Oh,
that's wonderful.
Oh, that's so touching to me that you feel that way, Vishaal, about my
work.
No, I'm really honored because I think, a couple years ago I did a reading at a predominantly white institution, and everyone was lovely. Like, everyone was really nice, and there was me and one other woman of color in the cast, and it was just like really, we both had like this experience of where I felt like everybody was like, what are they doing? And it was like, and I was like, it's one thing to be invited, and it's another thing to be welcomed. And so I really kept that with me since that experience of being like, how can I make sure that everyone is welcomed? And one of the things that I feel very strongly about as someone who has like this much power, as a writer, that's the other thing about being a writer. I feel like slightly more powerful than being an actor, which is like not really very powerful. But anyway, but my thing as a writer is like, I don't want anybody in my room who isn't being paid. And I think that has made a big difference in terms of just the environment, because I think there is a really weird and unpleasant iniquity that happens in a lot of theatrical situations in which you have like some people who are getting paid and some people who aren't, but everybody's like giving their all. And I feel really uncomfortable with that. I don't like it. And at the same time, I also feel like everyone must that wouldn't be better if everyone was not paid. I want everybody to be paid something. I think there's a bigger difference between $0 and $10 than 10 and 20. And so I think like everybody should get something. That's been like a guiding thought for me. So,
So great. Let's take some questions.
Ooh, questions.
Oh,
Questions.
Dennis says, Vishaal, what is your production company going to be called?
I am not telling yet. You will know soon.
But stay tuned to your Twitter,
to Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. It's all coming soon. Yeah, we haven't. I'm not announcing it just yet, but we just got the logo and like the stuff that we're doing that my friend Rahul created, and so it's very exciting. But yeah, you will find out soon. But sorry.
What more?
I also know Dennis, so this is okay.
Lori says, weird question. How do you go about financially supporting your own projects? Ooh.
That is not a weird question, and I want to applaud you for asking it because nobody talks about money, and we all pretend like we just like magically live here somehow. It's not magic.
It's not. It's not.
It's again, it's begging. I've experienced it as begging.
Well, and any kind of arts to be produced, it's it's all about the who's going to write the check, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know for me, and now that this production company is happening, like we're looking for like other funding sources and building like a team out. And so this is the first time I've ever done it. And so with Insomnia, at least, we kickstarted, we did like a traditional crowdfunding campaign. And then we did, after a lot of searching and a lot of, figuring out other ways, like we ended up getting some private investors that came on board. And I think it's a combination of really hustling and like, finding the right people that are going to greenlight your projects or support it. They are out there. You just have to somehow get to them. And it's like, I was LinkedIning random people. I was texting and calling random friends, random relatives. Like it is a full-time job. And if you have people that can guide you and help you with it, utilize them. Crowdfunding is great. It is a lot of work as well, but it's also free marketing for your projects, and you can do a lot with the money that you get from that. And there's all sorts of things. You just if anyone wants to DM me and ask me this, like I could talk about this for a long time because I'm going through it. I've also done it a couple of times. So lots of begging as we have said. Yeah.
And I think that will never end in terms of creating art. You know what I mean? Like we live in a country where art isn't really supported.
Valued.
Yeah.
Even though this past year, all anybody's done is like sit at home and watch Netflix.
Yeah.
Like how's everybody coped with like being stuck inside?
Yeah. I think it's also important when looking for funding because I got this advice early on, in that when you're looking for funding, especially from a private investor or like anything where you're asking a group or an entity for money, it's always good to find people that are aligned with your own mission for whatever the work is, because it's an easy sell.
Yeah.
For us, I was very adamant, and for a lot of projects, I'm really adamant that, there are a lot of people of color on the team, even if they're investors, because like there's a vernacular there, and there's a way that you can pitch it to them. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to create a product. The art is one thing, but like it is a business, so you kind of have to be a producer as well.
Absolutely. I think we have one more question. Yeah. What is your favorite part of writing your own characters? Shalina asks.
Ooh. Do you go ahead? I don't have a proper answer.
I mean, I don't know. So many of the times that like most of the plays that I write, like they just kind of happen as I'm writing them. And I'm like, oh, who is this person? They're so fun. And there have been multiple times where then my friends will see the reading and be like, oh, so it's you. And I'm like, no, it's not me. And they're like, it's totally you. But so it's fun to be able to like express yourself in different ways and have different, now I'm just like, okay, there's always a me character in one of my plays, but sometimes they don't look like me. I just think it's super fun to be able to create people that you don't, that you would like to spend time with, and B, that you don't always see.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very empowering to infuse some of like our bad elements into characters and things that are the exact opposite of us. And I'm going through something right now where like I have a lot of things where I'm writing like myself into it because vanity actor, like why wouldn't I? But the other thing
you don't, who will.
It's the thing, yeah. And so, but the other thing too is that there are times where I will write myself into it, and then I think about it, and I'm like, I don't see myself. I don't see this character as me. I see somebody else in it, and so that's been an interesting like process. I remember hearing Phoebe Waller-Bridge talk about Killing Eve when she was writing that. Like she initially like put herself in it, and then as she was writing the character, she was like, no, I don't. This isn't me. Like, I don't see myself in this. And to like pick and choose has been an interesting sort of journey. I'm figuring it out, but yeah.
So interesting. So we're out of time, but before we go, please consider supporting our organization by going to liveandincolor.org to donate. All money raised goes towards supporting our amazing artists and developing their new work. Also, be sure to tune in to be our guest next week when I will talk to the incredible Obie Award-winning director of such shows as For Colored Girls Who Have Considered Suicide and If Pretty Hurts, Ugly Must Be a Motherfucker, Leah Gardiner. It'll be an incredible conversation. She's an incredible artist, and I'm so excited to talk to her. Thank you to everyone who tuned in today, and thank you, Nandita and Vishaal, for joining me. Nandita, would you lead us in a little toast before we leave?
Well, cheers to you. And I also want to just say that Live and in Color is one of those organizations that creates a welcoming environment and pays all of their artists and really just creates a space that everyone can be comfortable and do their best work in. And so that's why I love Live and in Color, and I'm so happy to be here today. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you next week.
Bye.